Welcome to my channel, Grumpy Fox Garage. I'm Chrissy, and this channel is to document my life as a stick shift drag racer while simultaneously being a wife and a mom. This video, I hope, will give you an introduction to my racing journey and how it has evolved since 2019 specifically to now. What started as just I'm not going to the racetrack to sit with you at the racetrack every weekend when my husband was finished building his car turned into me doing the majority of the racing now, which is awesome. I love it, and he loves it too, and we're having a great time together. So, join me as I document this chaos that we conduct in our life and the evolution of me as a racer and my car as a race car. Uh, Hit the subscribe button, like this video, and I hope you enjoy following along.
All right, let's go back to 2019. So this is my original tow rig and the OG version of the Chevelle. It was pretty much stock at this point, as you can see. It had a set of Kragers on it. It had a 396 in it with a TH400 that were numbers matching. And it was just like a good driver. Like it had been mostly restored as a clone car, a clone SS 396. So, and I was just using my husband's daily driver at that point in time with our open trailer to haul it to and from the racetrack. So this is probably from one of my very first passes on the racetrack. One of my first passes at Julesburg ever, and B, my first pass in any kind of race car on a racetrack since 2006. I had a very short stint as a race car driver between my junior and senior year in high school with our high school race car. They had a 79 Camaro, and I got selected to go run the races, those two Memorial and Labor Day races in 2006. So that was pretty cool. It gave me a good taste of what racing was like and driving a car like that was like. And so that was a lot of fun. But you can see just a really beautiful car. It got restored pretty well. So we bought this from a friend in early 2019. And he and my husband have been best friends since like middle school or high school. And they bought this car, and my husband got a 71 El Camino, actually a Sprint. They bought those together in high school and restored them together, or started that process, each of them ending in varying degrees. But just so overall, really nice car and just kind of fun to drive. Like that 396 had quite a bit of pep in it, and the car handled really well, and just was like, it was just a good like drive around car, like go to town kind of quick and grab some pizza or whatever. So here's one of my very early passes. You can see the V-belt from the alternator fly off there in the beginning of the video, and Dusty cussing it up a little bit. Those were just some of the minor problems we had when we first started racing the car. I mean, it was still all stock everything, so nothing like, built to do what we were doing. But the car actually drove really nice and straight. It always launched really well, all those kind of things. It was really fun to race, but I kind of hated driving it a little bit on the track because I hated shifting the automatic transmission because it still had the stock shifter in it, and it just like the gates were never quite right on it. I think they were just a little bit worn out. So I always kind of struggled with that, but it was still fun. You can see how straight it goes down the track, all the things. So this is a good time. Then comes the carnage. Labor Day weekend after the Hot Rod Revival in 2019, and it's Sunday, so I made it through most of the weekend, and I'm on my second time trial, and I get almost across the stripe, and I just hear a huge, loud bang. My husband said that it was super loud at the top of the track or at the beginning, whatever. But I had a helmet on, and I just didn't think it was that loud. But I knew something had happened to my drive shaft, just kind of by the noise that things were making. So, that all happens. It stops running, all the things. But I'm able to get it off the track and onto the return road. So, get out, look under my car, and all I see is the drive shaft, part of it, anyways, as you'll see in the pictures in a moment, that it just was ripped in half. And then I could see a couple parts on the track, and then the track guys were, running down on their four-wheelers and everything. So that ended my Sunday pretty quickly. And that just ended racing for the year anyway. So we weren't going to go back after Labor Day, but we were definitely done for 2019 with my car anyways. Alright, so let's head to 2020. But let's get back to 2019 for just a minute. So about a week after the Chevelle blew up, I found out I was pregnant. About 6 weeks pregnant, actually. So unknowingly, I had raced that whole time in August while I was pregnant with our little miracle baby. Anyway, so we also started a home renovation in 2019, so that kind of slowed any kind of repair to the Chevelle. But Dusty did get our machine shop at that time to start on my engine. He went and got a block, all this kind of stuff. I still wanted a big block, and he ended up with a 496 block, 4-bolt main, and, we did all the things, make it a 505. So, he found some heads at the swap meet that year. I got, new pistons, camshaft, all kinds of stuff, crankshaft, I think, too. So we just got all that together. And then shortly after our kiddo was born in May, I think that's when he finally pulled the engine and started assembling everything. Or pulled the old engine out and started assembling and reinstalling the new engine. So a couple other upgrades I got new brakes. We added a dual throttle body sniper system, which was awesome. So I was gonna have fuel injection. That was one of our first forays into fuel injection. Dusty had started out with Phytech on his Nova and kind of went over to Holley to see what they had, and this is what he ordered for my car. So that was pretty awesome. We really actually have enjoyed that sniper for the most part. And then I only got to go racing in August of that year. So between having a baby, COVID, and two businesses, and finishing a home renovation and some other things, we obviously were kind of maxed out and stuff. So we went to the Hot Rod Revival in August, and I got to make some passes in my car that weekend. So kind of went through just having a whole new setup and learning how to drive. We got a new transmission, so new trans brake, all that kind of stuff. So it was just still kind of a learning era for me, besides being just ultra in the beginning of motherhood. 2021 season. So this season was really uneventful. My car just stayed the same from 2020. We didn't do anything to it really over the winter, just besides some normal maintenance and stuff like that. So we had that 505 and that TH400 and a trans brake and stuff like that. I didn't use my trans brake in 2020 because I got up to the line and it failed me. And it turns out that we think the solenoid was just kind of junk from the beginning. It just kind of worked intermittently, so totally wasn't my fault. My shifter also wasn't my favorite. We had a Kill Duff shifter, and Dusty has one and it's awesome. He had it in the El Camino and now the Nova. But the one that we had, just for some reason, it just did not work great from the start. So as you can see, the interior of my car, I didn't have a roll bar or anything yet either. It was still stock interior, so that's the only picture I have is with the cute baby. But overall, it was fun to race. We made it out to the Revival, Labor Day, and an October race. It was actually kind of late in the year, but it was really fun. And it just, it was uneventful for the most part. Dusty ended up licensing for his comp license that year, so that kind of took up the majority of what we were doing, because he was also running on methanol and stuff. But it was super cool. It was super fun. So it was overall a good season, just uneventful. Alright, 2022 enters the chat. So this was a year of big change. When we came back from 2021, we decided that we were going to add a roll bar, a 5-point harness, and do some other things just to restore parts of my car and just upgrade things. So we took the body off the frame, we put new body mounts in, all kinds of things like that, recoated the frame, replaced some suspension, just kind of overall checked things out and replaced parts that were either factory stock and needed to be upgraded, or that just were kind of worn out and things like that. But at the point where we separated my body from my frame, I walked back into the shop. Like, I literally walked up to the house. Dusty and the guys were doing that, and I walked back in, and Dusty's like, well, it's now or never if you want a stick shift. And I was like, well, I guess it's now then. So he ordered me a 256 Magnum. We ordered a diaphragm clutch from McLeod, and we paired that up with the 505. So we also, one other thing we ended up doing was doing a gear change, reading gear to we went to a 456 from I think a 373. But that year became the year of learning, and we both discovered just really how little we knew about drag racing with the stick shift cars. So Dusty was always an automatic guy, and up until that point, that's what I had only raced. I just had like this dream of being able to race a stick shift car one day. Don't ask me why, I just did. So but towards the end of that season, we did start noticing that 505 just was like not running well at all. So when I was on the starting line, Dusty was noticing that there was like a vibration coming from the engine. As strange as that sounds, that's how he describes it. And it just like, we were running 1250s and I wasn't getting any faster when I should have been getting a little bit faster, even though I was a newer driver and stuff, and it just was inconsistent. Everything about that engine just was inconsistent. I could not master it. I could not run a number. I could not run the same number twice in a row. None of it. So, I mean, pair that with my crappy driving skills at that point, and, you know, a lot can go wrong, but it just wasn't quite right. So we played a lot with the launch RPM. I had drag radials that I just blew them off every time, you know, I launched, so swapped those out. And we did a few other things too, but still inconsistent. So, kind of thinking, you know, as we got to the revival, we were just like, we're not gonna run this anymore. Something's wrong with my car. So, at the end of that season, we got my engine apart out of my car and discovered that the deck of the block was 20 thousandths shorter, I believe, than the other side, and that the pistons were just lightly tapping the bottom of my head. So not good things were happening, and, you know, that obviously had been happening the whole time. So just poorly machined and poorly assembled, and actually it didn't even have the parts that we had wanted in it, we later discovered. So so that was junk, and it was time to get a new engine. Alright, so we make it to 2023 finally. So after kind of a doozy at the end of the 2022 season, we decided to tear into that 505 and see what was going on. It ended up just being a hot mess. And so instead of just rebuilding that engine, which was our original plan, I ended up getting pretty much a brand new one. So we went to it with a 565. And the only thing that came out of my 505 that we essentially were able to salvage or that was worth using was my crankshaft. But I got brand new heads, a brand new dart block, all the jazz. And then we put my Sniper fuel injection on there with the dual throttle bodies, and you essentially just threw it in the car and went to town. And it was awesome. This was probably my most fun racing that I had up until that point, except for maybe 2019 when I kind of restarted racing. But I just really, for the first time, felt one with my car. My transmission was a good match for me. That engine was a great match for the car and transmission. And we really just, like, I started to excel as a driver finally. I found the right combination, and was able to just really learn how to drive my car, and it was amazing. So we really loved it a lot, and I just ended up having a good time. This was my first full season with the Rocky Mountain stick shifters, This was the last year for Bandimere, sadly, but I actually got to do a lot of racing. In 2022, I had done a couple nights with Club Clash, but I wasn't able to really do that in 2023. I think maybe we went to one night, but I don't actually remember, and I didn't see any in my footage bank. But I did have a lot of fun racing with the stick shifters, and I actually went to a couple races with them down at Bandimere. So towards the end of July, though, I got an email that I almost missed. I actually got into Rocky Mountain Race Week or Race Week 2.0, I guess, after being on the wait list for like 2 or 3 years. So this whole time we had been building my car after like rebuilding it, I decided that I wanted to do a race week eventually, at least one. So Dusty had started putting it together with the intention that we could do a race week in it. So we weren't full-blown race car yet, but we were able to just kind of work on things here and there that would make it streetable still, but also that, I could really go and bracket race, in the interim until I actually got a spot in race week. But yeah, I got called up off the wait list, and that was awesome. So that was at the end of July, so we had like less than 2 months, and I actually missed the initial email, which that'll be a whole nother video we'll make about our adventure on our first race week. But I finished out this season really strong. I had a lot of fun with my Rocky Mountain Stick Shifter group that I raced with, and I just, like I said, I can't explain how much fun I just had in this car that whole time. So and I just really came around as a driver. But yeah, this was an awesome time and my favorite season to date so far. I also got a perfect light this season, and I made it to the top 3 in that category racing, and it was at the Hot Rod Revival in Julesburg in the hot rod class. So I made it to the top 3 out of 400 cars that day, which was like just amazing. So it'll be one of my favorite days ever, on top of getting a perfect light that day. So yeah, lots of fun that we had that summer, and just I got to do a lot of racing. I got a lot of seat time, and then we topped it off with Rocky Mountain Race Week 2024. So I feel like the lift going up and down was the soundtrack to our lives this summer. We had the season of struggle. We had issues with the MSD grid and a couple safety settings. The synchro started to fry in my transmission. At one point, the 565 was making so much crankcase pressure that it was just blowing oil through the breather when I was doing burnouts. As Dusty said, it made its own atmosphere. I broke rear end parts. What else did I break? I broke a lot of things. It just felt like I reached the literal breaking point of a lot of things because I was pushing horsepower and my driving was getting better. So I was not really like messing up really, but I was putting a lot more pressure on my car to perform, we'll say. And I just pushed it to the limits of the parts that we had in it. So I didn't end up getting a new transmission or anything. We just kind of rode that out, and by Labor Day it was toast. But we did do a refresh on the 565, just kind of more erring on the side of caution. At that point, we kind of decided we wanted to go more full race car, maybe thinking that we wouldn't keep doing race week with it. There's our engine builder, Danny. But ultimately, we've decided we're going to keep doing race week with it. But anyway, we upgraded my heads while we refreshed it. Like we fixed the parts that I broke on my rear end. I broke the 4-link mounts, I think, on the top of the housing, but we just kind of kept repairing. Every race we came back, there was something broken, but that's just the way it goes. Sometimes we learned a lot of really good lessons, and I still had a lot of fun in my car, so we're definitely excited for this next season. I didn't really, I placed 17th with the stick shifters in points, so I didn't do terrible, but I didn't do great. My goal was to make the top 10, but we're up for Mega Week and the stick shifter season this year, and we're really looking forward to that. And that'll be kind of our next video series, like all the work we've done on my car this winter. So stay tuned, subscribe, and like this video, and we'll see you on the other side.